Successful women, have you ever been told you were too cold, too ambitious, not feminine enough? I was on the set recently of Fresh&Fit with the Sauce cast, and of course the main focus was male and female roles. Many of it had to do with leadership. And as a woman who works in a male-dominated role by men, high-valued men who I love and I admire, I have some thoughts on this that I would like to share. And before I do that, just want to give a shout out to Valuetainment, Patrick Bet-David, Adam Sosnick, and Fresh&Fit. It was a fantastic event. And Fresh&Fit, if you ever see this and you're interested in having someone like me on the podcast, put me in coach. Would really enjoy the conversation. But let's get into this. First and foremost, do I believe women can be and should be leaders and they would be competent leaders? Short answer is yes. But let's break it down a little bit further from the perspective of men and the perspective of women when it comes to women in leadership roles and why I think that way. And of course, I'm a woman, so speaking from experience, but some skill sets and some advantages that women have that can be used within their roles of leadership and influence is that women tend to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And I think it's twofold. There's probably more to it than just these two things. But one, of course, women historically haven't had as many opportunities as they do today. And so now that they have that opportunity, they want to prove themselves. And now this isn't all women, but there are women who want to. They have skill sets, they're competent, they know that they can bring value to the marketplace when it comes to business, when it comes to the society, and so they want to compete and prove their value. That's one aspect of it. The other is I think it's more biological, innate within us, because women have always had to compete for men. And if you want a more high valued man who has more options, you have to compete for that. And so proving our value and proving our worth, I think, is something innate and biological, as well as it's been cultivated over time when you think of society, just because we were unable to have the same opportunities to now that we are. Those women who have those skill sets and those ambitions and maybe more of that masculine energy, they have the opportunity to really bring it to the marketplace. So women tend to have a little bit of a chip on our shoulders, which is an advantage. We're willing to work hard. I mean, I work in a male-dominated team, and the two hardest workers on the team outside of my leader are the two girls on the team. And myself included, and Lay, shout out to Lay. We work harder, we outwork all the guys on our team. No competition. And when it comes to competition, some women are very competitive. And I can speak for myself. Growing up, I loved sports. I was a tomboy. Thank God I grew up in a time where when women or young girls were tomboys, they didn't tell them that they were actually boys with the wrong identity. So thankfully, my mom didn't shave my hair and call me Tyler. I was just a tomboy, and eventually I grew out of it and became more of a lady. But I was super competitive. I played soccer, I played volleyball, I would race the boys. I was the girl with like bandanas, jerseys, sweatbands. Like, I wanted to play with all the boys. I wanted to compete, and I liked to play sports. I was competitive. Now that I no longer play sports, although when I do, still competitive, that competitive nature hasn't left me. It's now just transitioned into business. And so women can be competitive and have that competitive nature, which is good in a form of leadership. You're still driving people, you're competing, you want to be the best. And so that's something that women have that is good. And with that, when you're competitive and you're also competent, because many women are competent in areas that men aren't, just like many men are competent in areas that women aren't, women can be very competent, and they can have skill sets that men don't have, or that they have more of, that can be useful in a leadership role. For example, communication, when they're soft and empathetic, but they can still be direct. Sometimes women can deliver a message better because they don't hurt the egos or hurt the emotions of those who they're speaking to because of their tonality, because of their empathy, but their still ability to be direct and communicate. That's a skill set that women can have in a form of leadership. And if you're a leader, communication is a key point in your success of a leadership, in a success of a leader, as well as the art of seduction. Women can be very influential and persuasive, and if you're a woman in a male-dominated world or industry, that could be used to your advantage in any role, but specifically in leadership role. You think of politicians, you think of business dealings, that because you are a woman and you are the minority speaking to my majority of men, if you master that art of seduction and that persuasion, that language, it could be a very useful skill set in a leader. And so those are some skill sets for women that would actually make them not only should it make them a leader, but an effective one. And it can also come from when women are super ambitious and possibly cold from a fear perspective. Men not protecting or providing, and they have those men in their life that they are fearful that they then want to be independent, they want to grow businesses, they want to be successful because they know they can't rely on a man. So when it comes to women in leadership, there's a lot of skill sets that they have, there's a lot of value that they bring. And I also feel that the chip on their shoulder, their willingness or wanting to succeed and be ambitious, some of it comes from a place of fear. And what do I mean by fear? There's many women who grew up maybe without a father, or they had a husband that wasn't the leader, the dominant, the man who was a provider and a protector. And because of that, their sense of fear, they knew that they had to fill that role. And I can say this from personal experience, from someone who had a father in my life growing up, who left me, my two sisters, and my mother, and just left us. And so I saw my mom from being married and staying at home, taking care of the children, being that stay-at-home wife that many men say that they want, to then have the father get up and leave, and saw her having to pick herself up. Thankfully, she's very competent, very skillful, was able to do that and provide for her 3 children, which was me and my 2 sisters. But me growing up and witnessing that and seeing that, what did that teach me? From a young age, subconsciously, to being more conscious as I grew up and reflect and process these things, that I don't want to have to ever rely on a man financially, for any reason. I'm going to be independent. I'm going to be able to take care of myself, so I don't have to rely on a father. I don't have to rely on a husband to take care of me. And that's just the fact of the matter, because I had a father that left me. He was supposed to be that leader, that protector, that provider, and he wasn't. So what did that do to me? It made me want to be more ambitious and more independent. So some of what you see in society today is also from a fear perspective, because of the lack of male leaders within their families and within their community. With that, it can develop a sense of ambitious in women and also a sense of coldness. I have been told by some of my colleagues that I can come off a bit cold. News to me. But with that, as they said that to me, I was actually reading the book by Robert Greene, Laws of Human Nature. And it was just so funny that it correlated such perfect timing, because he talked about women being called cold in the workplace. And right from the book, women who achieve success are more prone to attracting envy. They're said to be too cold, too ambitious, not feminine enough. A man who feels inferior to a woman breeds envy and hostility, not admiration. And so for men who maybe don't have the same success as women, they can cultivate this feeling. So there's 2 things to take away from that. Is that women to be aware of that men who you're more successful than, they can have this sense of envy towards you. And for men to realize that, are you envious because you don't like the fact that women are ambitious, or are you more envious, if this is you and you do have these feelings, because you now live in a society that is comfortable and complacent, and so you're super ambitious but you're kind of lazy. So when you see women achieving more success than you, it actually is a reflection of your inferiority, and therefore you're envious of them. And so I thought that was super interesting. And it's from a woman's perspective, be aware of that. And from a man's perspective, let's process that. You know, I agree with a lot of what Fresh&Fit say when it comes to men becoming more dominant men in the way they act physically, the way they are financially, spiritually. Now, I'm not on board with the 3 wives. That's for another video. I don't know about all that. But men should strive to be at the top of the hierarchy. They should strive for dominance. They should strive to be physically fit, to be financially free, to be spiritually sound. And so all of these areas are important, and I would agree with them on that aspect. And if you are a man and you have all those things, you can really have any woman that you want. And so in a world, in a society today where women are more empowered to be more masculine, to climb up the corporate ladder, to be more successful, to have businesses, it should create a sense of urgency in men to be more competent, to take life more seriously, to advance at a faster pace, because you want to remain at that hierarchy. Women are now competing. What are you doing? Instead of being comfortable and complacent in a society that allows you to, because historically men have had to provide, work, much of it with their hands. Life has never been easier than today when you can order Uber Eats, you can have groceries delivered to you, you can work from behind a desk all day. Life has never been easier, creating complacency and comfort. And so if men are ambitious but they're lazy, they're probably going to be envious of women who are ambitious, they're not lazy, and therefore they're more successful than them. And so what can men do about it? Take care of their health, financially free, work harder. Men that strive for those things that Fresh and Fit talk about, I agree. And if you become top 10% of your hierarchy, you have options. You can essentially have every woman that you want. And from that perspective, if you have options and you have all of those things, you have a pretty good life. And then it's up for the women to also strive to find the right man. And there could be a sense of fear with that if you're an ambitious woman, because finding a man who's also super ambitious that you would submit to and who has equal to more success or more potential for success than you, that's a smaller percentage of the population. And so women like me, I can speak from experience, being a successful, ambitious woman, being single, and being 29, it's a different perspective. You have less people to choose from, less men to choose from. You also have a different time frame than men. You have a shorter time frame, because if you want to be married, if you want to have kids like I do, you have a smaller time frame than men do. And so there's situations when it comes to sacrifice and opportunities with women striving to be leaders, with women striving in the workforce, to then also to find a man. And if you're more ambitious, if you can come off a little bit cold, you don't have as many men to choose from, because men don't want to be with a woman more successful than them. They want to assert their dominance, as they should. Men are leaders. They should be leaders. They're the alphas, 100%. And there's industries that I don't think women should lead, like physical activities, military, police. Probably another video, but I don't know about women leadership there. Probably I believe it to be a man's world. But when it comes to relationships, I do feel women can be leaders, men can be leaders, but when it comes to the family, men are leaders. And in order for women to find men that are more dominant, men have to be more dominant. Women have to know when to submit or to show more of their feminine side. And women who are ambitious and more dominant have less men to choose from, where men who are more dominant and ambitious have more women to choose from. And so with that, there is an interesting dynamic there. And altogether, I think it's an interesting time in society where women are being empowered, men tend to be being a little bit more emasculated. But what an opportunity for men to then, instead of being complacent and comfortable, to take the advice of Fresh and Fit and to be more masculine, to take care of yourself physically, financially, spiritually, have options in life. And for women who are ambitious to own that, to be leaders, to also know that men play an important role within leadership, to find a leader. And when it comes to being too cold and empathetic and all of these things, to know that there's a little bit of a give and take, that just as or more so successful and competent than you, because you have more respect for that individual. And so when it comes to leadership, I think both men and women play a role in leadership. And I also feel that it's an interesting time in society because men are almost being demasculated as women are being masculated. And I think there's a lot of synergy in between. There's a reason God made a man and a female, and it's for them to complement one another. And I don't think that's to say that it's 100% leadership in one direction, 100% leadership in the other direction. I actually find that there are traits within both male and females that make both of them great leaders. I do feel that there's industries where women probably shouldn't lead. I mean, when it comes to like physical industries, I don't know about women being the leaders there, and probably left up to the men because, you know, biology, they definitely have more skill sets when it comes to strength, I would say emotional control. There's a reason that men, over time, they were the fighters, they were the protectors. So I don't know if women should be leaders in every industry. That's probably another video, but I do feel that women are leaders. And for me, I can say one of my affirmations is I'm a leader of man and follower of God. And when I say man, I don't mean men. I mean just humans overall. And I believe that God put me exactly where I'm at this place to be a leader. And so I believe women can definitely be leaders, and you are ambitious. If you're a woman, and you are ambitious, you have drives, you have vision, you have dreams, you have hope. My colleague, who also called me cold, said, you know what, Taylor? You have hope. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you can find a man, and you can get married and have a happy life. And I was like, okay, thank you. Tell me what changed your mind? I was watching a video of a woman, she's a CEO, and she said, I submit to two people, God and my husband. He's like, Taylor, you have hope for your future relationship. I recently was watching a video, a CEO of a woman, and she said, I submit to two people, God and my husband. So for you, I know you already submit to God. You have hope because you can find a man that you will submit to, and that will be your future that would be your future husband. So for the women who are successful, who are ambitious, there is hope. And I believe women can be leaders, and I believe men ought to be leaders, have to be leaders for society and for their families. So I think they complement one another. There's gonna be more men leaders than there are women leaders. And I think men in a society that is complacent or comfortable, it's time for you to do many of the things Fresh and Fit say to assert your dominance and your hierarchy. But for women, you also are gonna compete too. And you're gonna be the best versions of yourself for the ones that wanna compete. And men, if you feel uncomfortable with that, I think you just have to do better. So, meritocracy, everyone, it's fun. And that's why I believe women can be leaders. They ought to be leaders. I'm curious as to what all of you think. Comment below, DM me, curious of your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and share. So thank you for joining me. For those of you who don't know, my name is Taylor DeGrande. I work here as a business coach in Bet David Consulting here at Valuetainment. If you have interest in learning more about what we do at Bet David Consulting with CEOs and founders from all different industries all across the globe, book a call with me, click the link or comment below. Would love to learn more about you and your business and your leadership team, whether they be male or female. But thank you for joining me, and stay tuned. I will see you next time.